with the good guys.
They're going to change their tune now.
Yeah. We're going to get a plaque for this one for sure.
Yes.
When the three of you come to, you landed pretty close to each other, which is as unlikely as it is adorable. And you are in a very shallow pool of water. And you realize that you have landed in the middle of the Gold Cliff city center. You're surrounded by these tall, shimmering buildings. And you realize that the sky is now just sort of lovely weather. It is returned to normal. And you are sort of sitting in this pool that the rivers that flow into town sort of converge in before they flow out and off the cliff. About 20 feet away from you in the pool, you see the Raven, and she's better. Her skin is not this weird mottled gray that it was when she was in possession, when she was being possessed by the sash. But she's holding in her arms Hurley, who does look bad. She looks really, really rough. Her skin is starting to turn like pitch black, and some sort of contagion, some sort of play you can tell is sort of climbing up her veins. And you actually hear the sounds of sirens coming your way from the finish line on the outskirts of town as the Gold Cliff militia starts to rush in to fix this situation. And you hear Hurley weakly cough, and she says to Sloane, "You're in trouble." And Sloane laughs and looks up and says, "This whole time I was looking for something more powerful than this fucking belt." And she looks down at Hurley and she says, I'm such a fool." And Hurley says, "Ha, yeah."
Don't you have any magics? You're a cleric, for crying out loud.
Me?
Sloane looks sadly at you and says, "This is the venom of Silver Point is. There's nothing we can do for her."
Horse shit.
Well, there's
Horse shit.
one thing I can do for her," she says. And she leans down to Hurley and whispers. And Hurley says, "Yeah, I think that'd be all right." And Sloane looks back at the three of you and says, I want to thank you for everything you've done, but I have one last request for you." She says, Are there other objects in this world that are as powerful as this belt?"
Yeah.
Yes.
There are fewer.
She says, "Don't let this happen again." And then you are blinded by another flash of light, an explosion of force that sort of throws back some of the water in this pool back on your face. And you're blinded for just a moment, but as your sight returns, you realize you're being buffeted by this thick whirlwind of these light pink petals. And they settle somewhat, and the wind settles somewhat, and thousands of these petals are floating weightlessly through the air. And you can see in the middle of this pond of a beautiful, towering cherry blossom tree has appeared. And it's where these petals are just sort of flying off of. And as far as trees go, it's the prettiest one you've ever seen. And at its base, you see these roots and knots that are forming two vaguely humanoid shapes. One is a sort of a shorter figure lying in the embrace of a taller figure. And on the ground, in the water in front of them, you see a raven mask and a ram's mask. And tucked neatly in between the two of them, you see the Gaia sash.
I elbow Taco and point at the sash.
I elbow Magnus.
Okay.
I elbow Magnus.
I elbow Taco a little bit harder. Point at the mask, or point at the belt.
Oh, yeah. I notice Magnus reaching for rail splitter, and I say, "Don't even think about it." And then and I grab the bell.